Germany light tanks. The idea of a light tank is an image that keeps changing its clothes. Sometimes it is a toddler beside a giant, a small tracked vehicle hunched under a larger turret. Sometimes it's a furtive scout, fast, low, and unlovely. For Germany, the story of light tanks is a prism through which you can see doctrine, industry, desperation, innovation, and, most of all, adaptation. From the brittle, fast-moving machines of the 1930s to the tiny, air-portable Wiesel carriers that still lurk in German armored parks, the thread that ties German light armor together is pragmatism. What do we need this for? And how cheaply and cleverly can we make it do the job? Picture the first German light tanks of the 1930s rolling out of workshops. Panzer I's tiny turret wobbling as it trundles over a farm road, two machine guns poking out like angry eyebrows. There is something almost tender about those machines, viewed up close. Small hatches, hand-cranked turrets, and the smell of oil mixed with the dust of unpaved roads. They were not meant to win a duel with a rival's heavy tank. They were a tactical tool born of treaty limits and limited budgets. The Panzer I and Panzer II were workhorses of an aggressive doctrine, Blitzkrieg, that valued speed, radio communication, and combined arms over singular armor weight. Light tanks carried reconnaissance duties, screened flanks, and exploited breakthroughs. They were the eyes and the nervous system of larger formations. The Panzer II, for instance, armed with its small-caliber automatic cannon, would have been a bothersome opponent for infantry and light vehicles, but outclassed against dedicated anti-tank guns. Yet their contribution was systemic, mobility and massed coordination, the kind of shock created when many small things moved together with a single will. In those early years, the technical compromises are plain to see. Light tanks are, quite deliberately, compromises. Less armor for more speed, smaller guns for lighter turrets, simplified suspensions for cost, and ease of maintenance. A light tank's soul is in its trade-offs. Its designers ask, how quickly must it move? How long must it survive? Who will it fight? German designers answered those questions with vehicles that could be produced quickly, repaired in the field, and integrated into the Panzer Division's doctrinal recipes that emphasized tempo. The smell in the field workshops, hot grease, solder, heated rubber from repairs, was the perfume of continuous improvisation. That improvisation would meet its limits when the Wehrmacht encountered well-armored Soviet T-34s and heavy anti-tank belts. The light tanks that had been so useful in Poland and France suddenly looked like half measures against a mechanized adversary who could trade firepower for effect. War changes doctrine. The brutal mathematics of World War II forced Germany, and everyone else, to prioritize heavier armor and bigger guns. The tactical role of pure light tanks diminished as main battle tanks and tank destroyers took center stage. But the need for light armored vehicles did not vanish. Reconnaissance, airborne operations, rapid reaction, and mechanized infantry all required platforms that could move where a Leopard or Panther could not. In the Cold War, Germany's armored thinking shifted to a NATO context. The country would be the bulwark of Europe, and its armored forces would need to be survivable, interoperable with allies, and capable of fighting in the dense, broken terrain of the Fulda Gap and the North German Plain. Heavy tanks like the Leopard I and later Leopard II were the headline act. Yet beneath that, lighter vehicles performed indispensable roles: scouting, anti-tank ambushes, and close support for infantry in constrained environments. Jumping forward to the late 20th century, the Bundeswehr faced another question. Could it have armor that was truly deployable by air and useful for expeditionary operations? The Cold War temperament, full-scale continental defense, began to look overlarge for new threats like low-intensity conflicts and peacekeeping operations in remote theaters. Germany's answer in the 1980s and 1990s was pragmatic brilliance. Make something very small, very light, and very useful. Enter the Wiesel. Imagine a vehicle the size of a large SUV, but tracked and armored. A person can crouch inside and feel the hull flex around their knees. It's not cinematic. It is cramped, intimate, and intensely human. The Wiesel family, an air-transportable series of light-tracked vehicles, was built to give airborne and rapid reaction units punch, where they would otherwise be sartorially exposed. Picture a Wiesel nose to nose with an insurgent pickup on a dusty plain. The Wiesel's small turret, packing a heavy autocannon or guided missiles, seems almost too fierce for its size. That mismatch is the point. Make an aircraft portable vehicle that can deliver anti-armor fire and support paratroopers. The Wiesel isn't meant to slug it out for days with a main battle tank. It's meant to run, hide, reconnoiter, and strike at the right moment. To ride inside a Wiesel is to understand constraints as a design ethic. The interior smells of corded leather, warmed metal, and hydraulic oil. Controls are close, tactile, almost belovedly clumsy, in contrast to the glass-laden cabs of larger vehicles. Heat builds inside on a summer day, even with the compact cooling systems doing their best. The machine's lightness means the suspension is lively. The driver becomes intimately acquainted with every bump, stone, and rut. The armor is minimal and pragmatic, protecting mostly against small arms and shell splinters, because any heavier plating would make the vehicle no longer airportable. That tiny cabin, those narrow hatches, the feel of the recoil in your bones when a 20mm or 30mm gun fires, those are the human notes that define what a German light armored vehicle is for. Germany's post-war inventory also included nimble-wheeled reconnaissance vehicles, like the Fennec, a joint Dutch-German design. The Fennec is built for stealthy observation, low silhouette, powerful optical suites, long range, and a focus on sensor-first reconnaissance rather than direct fire. The scent around a Fennec during exercises is diesel and dust. Its crew works with laptops and sensor arrays as much as with gun sights. Modern light tanks, in German doctrine, are rarely referred to as tanks at all. They are reconnaissance platforms, mobile anti-tank vectors, or airborne support vehicles. The nomenclature changes because the role matters more than the name. A small, tracked vehicle that carries anti-tank guided missiles and a good sensor suite is functionally more valuable in many missions than a bigger gun that cannot be deployed quickly. Technical choices in German light armor reflect a consistent logic. Be modular, be transportable, and be networked. Modularity allows vehicles to change roles quickly. A Wiesel variant can pack a heavy machine gun, an autocannon, or an anti-tank missile system. This modularity extends to armor packages. Add-on composite panels can be bolted on for higher threat missions, and removed when weight matters most. Transportability is a recurring theme. Germany's geography and alliance responsibilities require that forces can be moved across Europe and beyond. That's one reason why light, air-transportable vehicles remain attractive. Networking is the newest thread. A Wiesel, a Fennec, and a Leopard 2 in the same brigade are not three isolated nodes, but a set of sensing and firing points on the same map. Data links, UAV feeds, and infantry radios turn small vehicles into force multipliers. A Wiesel's missile firing at the coordinates supplied by a drone's camera is a modern example of how a lightweight platform leverages technology to do the work once reserved for heavier armor. The sensory world of training with light armor is instructive. In a morning exercise, a driver eases a Wiesel down a muddy track, while a sensor operator tracks a phantom bogey on a laptop. The ground smells like wet earth and diesel. Rain hammers the canopy in a percussion that makes your teeth vibrate. The vehicle is small enough to dart under tree canopies that would kill a leopard's silhouette. It is small enough to be hidden behind hedgerows. Yet smallness imposes psychological loads. A lightweight vehicle's crew is constantly conscious of their fragility. Their doctrine emphasizes avoidance and quick strikes rather than protracted engagements. The crew's jokes, dark humor about being a flying squirrel rather than a rhino, mask a serious tactical posture, survive by not being shot at in the first place. Operational history has stamped both strengths and limits into Germany's light armor doctrine. Light platforms excelled where strategic mobility counted: airborne operations, peacekeeping in constrained urban arenas, and rapid reaction in allied operations. Their weaknesses are equally stark against a force that can commit main battle tanks or coordinated drone and missile salvos. The 21st century battlefield's proliferation of precision-guided munitions, loitering munitions, and drones has sharpened this contrast. A lightly armored vehicle that once could hide in scrubland may now be visible to an inexpensive drone camera and vulnerable to a small loitering munition. This reality has pushed German designers and tacticians to think in adaptive ways. Add active protection systems, integrate soft-kill electronic warfare suites, and use signature management to reduce thermal and radar detectability. The equation of weight versus survivability is no longer just armor plating. It includes sensors and countermeasures that help a small vehicle live another minute. There is a human side to the engineering debates. Gustav, a vehicle commander turned instructor, once told a story of a winter training in the Black Forest. He had his crew hide a Wiesel under a grove of pines. For hours, they watched soldiers on larger vehicles roll by, oblivious. At dusk, a reconnaissance drone traced a path overhead, and then, quick, surgical, the crew slipped out, launched a simulated missile, and withdrew. "We were a ghost," Gustav said, eyes bright with the remembered thrill. "We were there for one heartbeat. That is the mission, to be useful without being found." The story captures the ethic behind Germany's light armor. Purposeful, discreet, and built around the idea of selective engagement. Industry has responded. German manufacturers specialize in compact powertrains, advanced composites for light protection, and remote weapon stations that pack high performance in small housings. Companies also develop modular kits to up-armor vehicles for theaters like Afghanistan or the Sahel, where the threat environment demands heavier protection for expeditionary operations. Some modern trends include hybrid electric drives that offer quieter propulsion for stealthy reconnaissance, improved suspension for cross-country mobility, and advanced sensor integration so that a light vehicle can hand off target data to artillery and air assets almost instantly. The idea is to make what is light physically feel heavier in effect through connectivity and precision. There are also strategic debates inside Germany about the right balance between light and heavy forces. The Bundeswehr's historic role as the anchor for European defense pushed investment toward heavy tanks and support. The post-Cold War era's peacekeeping demands pushed development of air-portable armor. More recent geopolitical shocks have reopened discussions. Do you build many light, rapidly deployable units to show presence, or fewer, more survivable heavy units to hold ground? Reality suggests you need both. The right mix depends on political aims. Deterrence and heavy force defense require tanks and deep logistics. Expeditionary operations and rapid response policing need light, smart platforms. Export and coalition work also shape Germany's choices. NATO partners and expeditionary coalitions value air-portable vehicles that can ride in airlift or sling under helicopters. German designs are attractive because they come packaged with robust logistics and training networks. But export introduces new dilemmas. When light armored vehicles are sold to partners with different doctrines or training standards, they may be used in ways that their designers never intended. That is a perennial ethical and political quandary. Weapon systems designed in one strategic context can find themselves deployed in others where risks and responsibilities differ. Finally, there is an emotional reality built into the crews who operate light armor. They live with different anxieties than MBT crews. Less the dread of a frontal tank duel, and more the gnawing risk of being found by an agile enemy. Their pride is different too. It is the satisfaction of being clever, of doing more with less. Old veterans will tell you the drill. You polish a Wiesel's tracks before a parade, and you know every bolt by name. The intimacy of that relationship, small machine, small crew, intense dependency, creates camaraderie and a kind of gritty affection. If you are watching this and thinking about the future, here's a question for the comments. Do you think modern light armored vehicles should prioritize stealth and sensors over armor and guns? Or is there still a place for heavier firepower in light packages? Hit subscribe if you want more deep dives into military vehicles and doctrine, and tell me which German vehicle you want to see analyzed next. The Panzer II's museum legacy, the Wiesel's modern variants, or the Fenix sensor suites. I read every thoughtful comment, and your suggestions shape the next episode. Germany's light tank story is not a tale of obsolescence, but of adaptation. From the Panzer Division's skinny scouts, to the Wiesel's airborne punch and the Fenix spectral reconnaissance, the logic of light armored vehicles has been resilient. They are not designed to face the roar of the Leopard 2. They are designed to be where the Leopard cannot be, and to amplify the Leopard's effect by watching, feeding, and striking at the right time. In a world where speed, information, and surprise often matter as much as mass, the light armored vehicle is an old idea recast for new realities, small, busy, and perpetually useful.